First of all, can you talk about how you guys met? I understood. Now, you were judging at IFC, is that correct?
I was. Look at them. I'm falling apart. I was. I was judging. I was a juror at the Independent Spirit Awards with this illustrious sort of jury group, and I saw his film. And I saw two of his films, and one that he co-directed, Take Out, and one, this Prince of Broadway. And I just remember, because there's so many movies to watch, you know. I remember thinking, gosh, you know, I want to watch this movie again, and I had no time to watch it again. So I'm like, I made a point to watch it again, and then a third time, because I was so blown away at the authenticity of and the truth of a world that I knew had to be shot by a black man, or I just felt like it was like it had soul to it. It had a soul that not that white people don't have soul, but they ain't got my kind of soul. And it just dropped into a place of like, you know, like it was in your face, and I so was rooting for it.
Were you surprised when he was white? Were you like, hey, you're white?
A little bit. Look at him, he don't get no whiter, right? So it was really exciting and also to see a fresh filmmaker with new, it had nothing to do with color at that point. It was like, you know, it was like, I love cinema, you know, and so when you see great cinema, it's rare. And so I was stoked, excited, and jazzed, and then I went to the jury and started fighting for it. Good. And then, yeah.
Let me ask you, you know, Prince Adu, the character, you know, it seems like these are the invisible characters to most of us, the invisible people. We go down the street and they fall, but we don't see them, like with homeless people. We don't, of course, we ought to. How important is it to put light on these types of characters so that people recognize the humanity of them? I mean, is that part of what you were after here?
I think that making these last two films was a response to not seeing enough of this in American mainstream cinema, and even in American independence. I live in New York City, and it's the most diverse city in the world, and it's all around you. So how come there aren't more stories like this? And so. But from that point, that wasn't the only intention of the film. Of course, it was maybe our launching pad. But from that point on, it was really about telling a human story, and it was really about just getting into the world and letting it grow organically from there. And so, yes, it was an important aspect of it, but not the only aspect.
Well, I found him, of course, empathetic on a human level, but it also struck me as like this could be a studio movie starring Hugh Grant as an ad executive who was entirely different movie, and a movie that I don't want to see, frankly.
Right.
Did you know you wanted to take this direction go with this direction from the very get-go when you arrived at the concept of the story? Was it like, okay, this needs to be this kind of character in this kind of play?
Well, you know what? To tell you the truth, it started off with us with the desire to shoot in this location, and to shoot. And once we did research on this location and getting to know the West Africans who worked there and the Lebanese shop owners, we really developed a story after that.
Okay.
Yeah. So the story came from meeting people like Prince Adu and hearing about his experiences there, and hearing about shop owners' experiences, and then trying to figure out a story that would be accessible to a general audience, and that would make almost anybody interested in what they're about to see. And if I can really quickly explain the child thing.
Ain't no such thing as quickly explain. Take your time, filmmaker.
That's it.
Take your time, sir.
Got it. All right. Well, basically, that's the one section of New York, of Manhattan, that I consider the most energetic, colorful, and just chaotic part of the city. So it was an area I always wanted to shoot in, and it was also an area that hadn't been really gentrified. Manhattan has been gentrified so much in the last 10, 20 years. But it's that one section that I still felt like I was coming into the city as a little kid, where my father would, I grew up in New Jersey, my father would bring me into the city because that's where he worked. And I remember coming out of the Lincoln Tunnel and coming down 42nd Street with that welcome to the jungle moment and feeling like a little kid being overwhelmed, having the sensory overload. That's the way I still feel in that area. And one time I was actually telling that to a partner of mine. I was communicating, I was like, well, why do I want to shoot here? Because I still feel like a little kid here. And then that was it. Well, let's take a little kid and throw him in the middle of this mix and let the audience sort of see it from the eyes of a child.
We'll talk about that. I mean, your second movie, I think, is what you guys said. They always say don't work with kids and don't work with animals, and here you have a kid square in the middle of the picture. Was there ever a point where you regretted doing a movie that involved this one? I mean, did it become a headache to work with a child, particularly as a relatively new filmmaker?
No, quite honestly, no. And it was because Aiden was so well behaved. He was an incredible kid who was really, I think, just fascinated with this group of people around him who were doing crazy things and repeating lines over and over again. And all I had to do was really document him watching the world. He's 1.5 years. He was 1.5 years old when we shot, so it wasn't exactly like he was acting.
Presenting the movie. No, so clearly you didn't do financing or anything like that. But are you instrumental in getting it distributed and getting it into theaters, or what exactly is your role?
What is my role? Here's the thing: Oprah and Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry presented my film, and I understood the power of presentation. I saw this film and it knocked me out. And so when my friend who had run my foreign sales division, he sold, did work with me on Precious. He sold Precious and Woodsman, all the films I've done overseas, decided to open a distribution company. He said to me, would you mind presenting? I jumped on it in a heartbeat because I think everybody should see this film, and I think that if I can ring the bell as loud as I can for people that like my work, they will equally like this film. This film is simply a masterpiece, and I think that everybody needs to see it. So anything that I can do to get people in the theaters to see this little film, I'm here.
How often do you? Is this part of your?
I've never done it before.
Do you think you will now? I mean, you look and say,
I probably won't do it again. I don't know. It just depends, unless he does something that struck me. Rarely am I affected by other people. I can see the bullshit. Yeah. You know, I can look at a film and I can take one moment, 1 millisecond of bullshit takes me out of a movie for good. And this has it's a rare moment for me to watch cinema like this, and to be allowed to present the film is a great honor for me.
And it is an honest movie from the first second to the last, which I think, it passed your bullshit test.
Yeah.
Well, terrific work, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sitting with me.